Hey everyone, welcome back to After Credit Reflection. My name is Nolan. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to talk a little bit about some Christopher Nolan films over the next 2 weeks leading up to his newest film, The Odyssey, releasing in theaters July 17th. Christopher Nolan is one of those filmmakers that comes along once in a lifetime. He's made iconic movies like Interstellar, the Dark Knight Trilogy, Oppenheimer, and, of course, as I mentioned, his newest film, The Odyssey. In addition to being one of the most iconic modern-day filmmakers, he is also one of the best because he prefers quality over quantity. And he's one of the only filmmakers that still does that to this day. Other filmmakers have kind of given into this Hollywood trend of wanting to please the crowd. And no matter how much you love or hate Christopher Nolan, you can't really diss him on the quality of his films. Because the quality of his films are amazing whether you like the films or not. I personally love the Dark Knight Trilogy, and I'm going to be covering that in today's video because that is a trilogy that I think that is very underrated for the DC Universe films, but also at the same time, it is one of the best examples of what superhero movies should be and also could be. Because today, superhero films are a lot about quantity and how much action figures you can sell and how much action you can put in it, but not many filmmakers who focus on superhero movies today focus on dialogue and setting and pacing, and the Dark Knight Trilogy is perfect when it comes to that. So that's what I'm going to be covering in today's video. And also, if you like this, go ahead, check out my other reflections. This is going to be a deep dive though. This is going to be a deep cut today. All right. So in 2006, we got one of the best starts to a trilogy that has ever existed, and it's Batman Begins. Why is this movie so good yet not as talked about as the other two? I think I know why, and I'm going to explain that in today's video, but Batman Begins is the one that sets the pace for the entire Dark Knight trilogy, and in my opinion is very underrated. Has a very underrated villain of Cillian Murphy as Scarecrow. You got Christian Bale as the Dark Knight himself, and you have so many other iconic characters, and it's just amazing to see them all come to life in this dark and gritty story of Bruce Wayne's origins of becoming the Dark Knight, and kind of how he finds the motivations in order to explore that darker side of him. And when we talk about Batman Begins, we have to talk about Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul. Now, a lot of people they like Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul in that movie, and I can see why, but the overlying villain being Ra's al Ghul, in my opinion, just my opinion, I don't know if it was the best choice. I think that Scarecrow working from behind the scenes and then later coming out as one of the villains is one of the best moves in the trilogy. And so I think with everything going on in the world all the fear and everything, it kind of reminds me of Scarecrow, and so he's a little bit more relatable than Ra's al Ghul. So I think that it's one of the best starts to a trilogy, but I also think that there could be a few places it could improve on. The pacing itself is really good. I do think that the time, especially over like the next two movies, increases over the next two movies, and so it is perfectly timed and paced. Just a few things about it, just small things, could be improved. But that's just my opinion. Alright, I know that Batman Begins was short, but we have two other movies that are very, very heavy when it comes to reviewing, and a lot of people dive deeper into those. And so I don't want to waste any time. I don't want to waste any of your valuable time watching this. So I will get into my reflections, and then at the end I will score all of them. And these might be the highest scoring movies yet, but we'll see at the end of this video. It's one of the most iconic portrayals of the Joker in any film or media. I'm talking about The Dark Knight, with Heath Ledger as the Joker and still Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne, or the Dark Knight himself. Now, saying that, you have to understand that when this movie was made, iconic movies like Iron Man were being released. And so superhero movies that we know today, the MCU, started to kick off around this time. And so to have a film as good of quality as The Dark Knight is very rare nowadays, but it still happens. And I love the directing style that Christopher Nolan used when he directed The Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises, and Batman Begins. It is just perfection to the characters that are in the comics, and also just the focus on dialogue instead of just fighting all the time. It's amazing, because then the fighting actually means something, and I think that that is something that we're missing in superhero movies today, is fighting that actually means something instead of just, oh, these two people are fighting, why are they fighting? Like, we're missing the dialogue beforehand, and I think that it's just amazing to see that The Dark Knight has still held up today, and the entire Dark Knight trilogy is still held up to this day. Like, if you go watch it, it's going to be a long watch, but if you go watch it, it is one of the best trilogies of all time. And I can't wait till the newest Christopher Nolan movie comes out, the Odyssey, because that is just going to be another film that Christopher Nolan does so well. But we're not talking about the Odyssey today. We are talking about the Dark Knight Trilogy. Now, the Dark Knight, one of the most iconic portrayals of the Joker, as I said, opens with a guy holding a clown mask on the street. At that moment, you could tell something was off. Eerily, with the music and everything, you could tell something was off. And then we get the face reveal of the Joker a few minutes into the movie, and it is amazing. The transformation of Heath Ledger into the Joker is one of the best portrayals of a villain that we have ever seen. And I'm not gonna lie, I just love this entire movie. I love watching it. It's one of the darker, grittier DC films, and it is also regarded as one of the best superhero films of all time because of the performance of Heath Ledger as the Joker, who won the supporting actor category at the Oscars for his role as the Joker. That hasn't been done in so long. It's just amazing to see that. When you find a great film, when you watch a good film, when you watch a fantastic film, when you watch a great film, when you watch what people call absolute cinema, they could be talking about a Christopher Nolan film, because Christopher Nolan films are absolute cinema. Don't worry, I did not forget about The Dark Knight Rises. The last of the trilogy, one of the best about talking about how corrupted the world is. This entire trilogy talks about how corrupted the world is. Even though it talks about Gotham, it is a reflection of the modern day world, even to this day. I mean, Dark Knight Rises, it happens because of the events, because of everything that led up to it in the past two movies. And I'm not going to say that I'm solemnly in love with The Dark Knight Rises, because there are a few things that need improving. Every movie has that. Every movie has something that it needs improvement on. But the Dark Knight Trilogy is one of those that it is difficult to find what it needs improvement on, because of how fantastic of cinema it is. And so I guess The Dark Knight Rises is one of those where it's in the trilogy. It's one of the most iconic films in the trilogy, and yet it's so long as a movie, but also the story goes so in depth that by the end of it you're like, wow, this is a reflection of our world. I mean, a guy could just come in and take over and just have an elaborate plan to take over from the underground, and yet somehow Batman will swoop in and save the day. And of course, I hate to burst your bubble, but Batman's a character. But yet, he still gives hope to people. And I'm not the biggest Batman fan out there, right? I'm a fan of the 60s version, as shown with this 60s version. But I'm also a fan of The Dark Knight. So that's why I wanted to dive into these movies, because one of the best things about being somebody who's into film is that you get to watch a lot of film, and you get to study it, and you get to think, well, is this a good film? In my opinion, is this a good film? The answer is going to be, yeah, it is a good film. Dark Knight Rises, I mean, The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, they're all good films. They're all absolute cinema. But there's always room for improvement. And every single movie that Christopher Nolan does, he improves on it. He improves every single time. I mean, I just listed some of his filmography at the beginning of this video. Interstellar, Inception, the Dark Knight Trilogy, Oppenheimer. So many films and so many stories to tell. And yet they still come out as good films. Can you say that about a lot of other films today? I know that I've seen movies over the past couple years, and I gotta say, movies have been declining in quality. They've been more about the money grab and not about the quality of the film. And yet, filmmakers don't realize that quality of a film and the substance of a film, that is what drives people to movie theaters. It's not the big glamorous lights. It's the simple things. It's the communication between characters. It's, okay, what are the motivations of this person? Let's show it, and not have them be like, oh, you did this to me, so I'm gonna do this back to you. No, let's have it be subtle. Let's have some subtle communication. I can't wait till cinema gets back to that. I can't wait until I see the Odyssey, because I feel like when I see the Odyssey, it's gonna reignite that spark in the hope that I have for film. So, is the Dark Knight Trilogy any good, you might ask? Yes, it is good. People would say it's absolute cinema. But remember that even the most iconic, even the best films were made with difficulty. They were made with struggle. And they were also made for people to watch them, whether they're fans or not. Good films should always be made for people to watch. Because if you cater to just the fans, you'll find that the fans get disappointed because they want to see quality over quantity. And so as I wrap up today, I hope that you learned a lesson in film. And I hope that you learned that the Dark Knight Trilogy by Christopher Nolan is one of the best trilogies of all time. It's difficult to pinpoint and dive deeper when there's so much there. But because I want to cover this in one video, I just want to say that Christopher Nolan is one of the last and best filmmakers. One of the last good filmmakers. And we just gotta keep his movies alive, you know? And so, when you watch a Christopher Nolan film versus, say, a newer movie that's not focused on the plot, it's just focused on making money, or it's not focused on the plot, it's focused on the fans, make sure you keep in mind that there is still good cinema out there, and you can still make good cinema. Alright, I said that I would be giving it a score. And so I'm going to give The Dark Knight, I'm going to go in reverse order. So I'm going to give The Dark Knight Rises, I'm going to give it a 9.5. Only reason I give it a 9.5 and not a 10 is because while it is a good movie, it is a long movie, but there's also a few things like character plots that I just didn't understand. And so I just decided to take off half of a point. For The Dark Knight, however, that is going to be a absolute cinema score of 10 because it is one of the most iconic portrayals of the Joker. It is one of the best movies that portrays that rivalry of Batman and the Joker. And it is also one of the best commentaries on today's world and understanding how crooked today's world actually is. And then for Batman Begins, I'm going to give it a 9.0. The reason I give it a 9 out of 10 is because while it is a good film, there are a few confusing parts, and there's also squeezed 2 villains into there. And while there are 2 villains in the other movies, you got The Dark Knight, which has the Joker and Two-Face, and you've got Bane and one of the Al Ghul family members in Dark Knight Rises. Batman Begins uses 2 characters that not many people know about. Even though the performances were stellar by Liam Neeson and Cillian Murphy, and also throughout the entire trilogy, Christian Bale is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing as Batman. And also the iconic portrayal by Sir Michael Caine of Alfred will not be beaten, in my opinion, in many years to come. So, that's it for me. I'm about to wrap up here. And next time that I see you guys, it will be covering the iconic Christopher Nolan film that came out in 2023, Oppenheimer. And I'm excited to cover that. I'm excited to dive deep into that because there's so much there. There's so much substance. There's so much dialogue to dive into. It is amazing. And so I will see you guys next time. I'll see you at the movies. And if you like this, go ahead and check out my other reflections.